Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Norma Bardas Villamor, a licensed professional teacher here in the Philippines. I am also a teacher in preschool. I'm a teacher in grade school and junior high school. Currently, I am also working as a teacher for students in masters, and I am also a student in doctorate schooling. So here in the Philippines, I am the basic education principal. I am the principal from preschool to junior high school. So I am handling more than 1,000 students here in our school. So more than 1,000. So we have a lot of students here in our school, and basically our second language is English. So currently right now, I'm taking care of elementary students to junior high school. So students ages 5 years old to 17 years old. And as of the moment, I am currently into leadership, and I'm working on as a principal and trying my very best to share expertise among our students and teachers. So basically, that's me.
Wow.
I am in ninth grade. I'm 14 years old. My hobbies are reading books, playing games, watching TV, and dancing. If an English teacher, can I ask one question, ma'am? Do you think cramming, parroting, or just memorizing is a good study habit?
Good evening, Lolita. Memorizing. Here in the Philippines, long before 10 years ago, we memorize a lot of things. We memorize poems, we memorize the multiplication table, and we also memorize words because these are all basically the fundamentals when it comes to learning. But after the 18th century, there came the 20th and the 21st century where we do away from memorizing. So if you are going to ask me, it's like a 50-50% or percentage of learning approach. So when we do memorize, it's reiterating what we have learned from our past experiences. Like for example, you are trying to study about multiplication table. For me, I am not a mathematics expert, but I do believe that when you memorize the certain numbers, it will be instilled in your mind. So that's one part, but I do not say that memorization is bad. So we do have different approaches when it comes to retention, trying to recall on things, recall on reading, on the words that we've read, on the numbers that we've seen in our classes. It's important that we have the retention. We try to recall things, we try to recall words. Now, is memorization bad? No. Memorization is just part and one of the approaches that we know. Now, what other things that we can do aside from memorization? Aside from memorization, we can always do practice reading. Like we do have sight words in English that we can always read. For example, the words that we use basically for constant English or for common words, like saying, how are you? So knowing the words, how are you, or the sentence, how are you, looking at the letters and looking at the context, you would be able to memorize it constantly. Now, when you always say those words or those sentences, we can always put retention in our mind. So definitely, that's one main goal of memorization. But as what I've said, it's important that we constantly read. I am not a math teacher, but when I read, there are some things like approaches, strategies, methods that we can have when it comes to knowing math, understand the concept of mathematics, and also comprehension. Now, the problem with us, just like us from India and from the Philippines, we do share the same concept that English is not our first language. And we know that. English is not our first language, but we try to speak in English. We try to articulate words in English. We try to express ourselves in English. And with that, we read. So that's number one thing that I would like to tell you. Since you are young, You have a lot of dreams and aspirations, just like, unlike us, Harry and I, we're old. Yeah, we're old. You are young, you have fresh ideas. One thing, always read. When you read, your vocabulary expands. When you read, it's like going to other countries, it's like going to other places. You tend to learn more about a particular thing because of reading. Reading is different from memorizing. When you memorize a poem, you cannot memorize the interpretation, right? But when you try to express yourself through reading, you will be able to understand a particular poem. For example, a poem says, I love the country where I belong. Maybe that's the poem, a line in a poem. Now, how do we interpret that? By reading. I am from the Philippines, you are from India. How come you love your country? So it's just an analysis of what you have read. So one important note is that always read, not just memorizing or not just by recalling. Always understand the concept, not just by counting with our fingers or using the multiplication table. So for me, it's really important that you read, you try to comprehend, you try to know the ideas, and somehow you try to memorize things. So I think that's it. You know, the question parroting, when, I'm really sorry about my dog. When we say parroting, we articulate it oftentimes. We always say it. Now, thinking of things like, I need to study, I have to study. So when you study and you always say that to yourself, I am good, I am excellent, it always boosts your confidence. So that's one thing that I could know about parroting. And when we say parroting, it's just like articulating what, for example, Mr. Harry says. Articulating what Mr. Harry says is having retention in your mind. So thank you, Lolita, for your question, and I hope I gave you a very good response on that matter.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
What are the uses of social media in students' perspective?
Okay, so we are referring to social media, right, Nagalakshmi?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
are talking about social media, right? So if I may ask you, what platform do you use for your social media accounts? Is it Facebook or Instagram or other platform? What do you use in India?
So in India, I think many students use Facebook.
Okay. Now, in India and in the Philippines, we do share the same constant platform that we use. In the Philippines, we always use Facebook and Instagram. Now, in India, if you have Facebook, we must always remember as a student, you as a teenager, you always have the responsibility. And one of the responsibilities that you must know is carrying your identity in public. So the question is, how do you carry yourself in public? Do you expose personal things? The answer must not be no. Do you expose your username or password or credentials for your social media accounts? No. The answer is no. A big no. Do you expose your personal photo like you wearing a swimsuit or swimwear? The answer is no, because you were just a student. Asking me if you are allowed to expose your relationship with your family, it's okay if you have the consent of your parents. If you allow if your parents allow you to post your photo in social media, because remember, you are just minors. Here in the Philippines, we do have what you call minor people. Minor people are people who are under 18 years old, meaning to say 17 years old down below. Like you, I think, are they 14 or 15 or 16, Harry?
Yes, these kids are 11 years, 11 to 14 years only.
Yeah, so definitely it's a huge no. Why? Because you are minors. Your parents have the responsibility over you. So meaning to say, in the use of social media platform, number one, always ask for your parents' consent. Mom, dad, how do you call mother and father in India?
Yeah, in regional language, we call them, in our regional language, we call them Amma, and father Nana. Amma, Nana.
Okay, Amma and Nana.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if you would really want to expose your beautiful face in your social media account, what I always ask my kids are, you just have to ask your parents too, like, Amma, Nana, can I post my photo in my social media platform like Facebook? When they say yes, that's the only time that you have to expose yourself or you want to expose yourself. But if they say no, please follow your parents. Please follow your Amma and Nana. It's for your own good. Now, how do I say that? It's because I have 3 girls, 3 daughters. One is 17, one is 18, and one is just 9 years old. I have 2 boys. Both are not minors anymore, like 23 and 22. So these boys are entitled, meaning to say, it's okay if they really want to expose themselves in the social media platform. But for the girls, it's a big no, just like you. Why? You are minors. The second one is we protect you. The third one is we have a power or the responsibility over you. And the fourth one is because we love you. We do not want you to get exposed by what you call that haters. The haters, the people who want to scam you, the people who want to exploit you or use your photo in a lustful thing. So please, that's my advice for you. Whenever you want to make use of your social media platform like Facebook, ask your parents. And first and foremost, if you do have a Facebook, ask your parents first, can I have a Facebook account? That's the first question. So I do hope, Nagalakshmi, that I've answered your question very well.
Yes. Ask your question clearly, Nandini.
What are some habits that could improve your English?
Okay, so some habits that I could improve my English. First and foremost, a conversation just like this one. So this conversation, and I'm really very thankful for Harry, because Harry, I do know, we've been conversing for several months now, but this is just the first time that we had a real conversation, right? So we haven't had the chance to do it with the students. So I do know that this is not the first time, and I am really offering you my time, Harry, for the students to converse with me. So the next time that we have a conversation, I'll be asking the question. So they will be responding. So since this is our first meeting, I'll be giving you, Nandini, certain points how we can improve our English. First and foremost, thank you, Harry, conversation. Conversation is number 1 key to improve your language, to improve English language. With conversation with other kids, not only in India, I can provide you with my students here in the Philippines who are also good in English. So conversation is number 1. When you talk to other people other than your countrymen or fellow Indian people, you would be able to learn about their language. For example, as what I've said, my English is just a second language in the Philippines. Our first language is Filipino. But how can we express ourselves? Through conversation by other nationalities, talking with Indians, talking with Koreans, talking with Singaporeans, talking with Americans, and with our partners in UK. So with people around you, you will be able to explore the world. You know, the pandemic has given us an opportunity for us to talk to other people. it's really expensive to go to the Philippines or to go to India, right? It's expensive to go to America or to UK. But with the use of this kind of way of conversation, the world has opened an opportunity for us both to communicate, to express our language, to be able to learn your accent, and in our own little way, we do have Filipino accent. So I do know that having or learning or having this kind of conversation would improve. The second one is trying to have an email conversation with Indians and Filipinos or other countries. Like what I think of right now, it's an idea in my end that I could provide Harry an email of our students that you could have conversation with. So it's not like always spoken language. It can also be written, like encoded in email. My students can send you an email and then you can respond using English. Both of you will both speak in English by writing and by speaking. So number one is conversation, just like this one. And the second one is trying to send a message using Facebook or using email. And then the third one is having webinars that could expand your vocabulary in English or would expand your experience. You know, experience will always teach us. Experience is the best practice. So for me, having conversations like this one, constant communication with your teacher, Harry, and with me, it's always a two-way communication. We can have that. And we can make two worlds, like your Indian world and Filipino world, collide into one another. So we could always teach one another. So I do hope, Nandini, that I am able to give you a good answer for that one.
What are the good study habits in your opinion?
Okay, so you are referring now to a good study habit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so talking about good study habits, the first thing that comes into my mind is avoiding multitasking. Yes, I know that students like you can multitask. And thank you so much, Bhagyasri, for asking that one, because multitasking has been your habit, right? Like using the cell phone while watching TV, while trying to understand a certain poem or a composition, or trying to talk to your parents. You know, the world opened that for us. But your mind is just one. And although it has many complexities inside, our brains may get tired. So somehow, trying to avoid multitasking and focusing on one particular area could help you improve your study habit. So that's number one. Why do I say so? Because in my experience, and also in the experience of my students, if you try to multitask, division of mindset carries out. You must always understand that. If there is multitasking, your brain works in many ways. Your mind splits into many channels. Your brain expands into many ideas. Now, what happens next? What happens next was the question of Lolita a while ago, cramming. The reason why you cram is that because you try to multitask. Now, when you try to do multitasking, it's like avoiding your focus and avoiding your talent, your innate talent to show in one particular aspect. But mind you, multitasking is not bad. Remember that. I am just telling you that when you do multiple tasks, your mind expands, trying to send channels to your brains in many ways. what you try to end up with is cramming. Then when you cram, you get stressed. When you get stressed, you get sick. When you get sick, your parents may be bugged out with your physical condition. Remember, students, our body is just one. Our lives may be one, and I do know that I have a lot of friends in India. They always tell me about reincarnation, and somehow I have this notion about reincarnation, but make the most of it rather than just be reincarnated into something else. I like the idea of reincarnation. I want to be reincarnated into a beautiful princess. I really would want to have that. But when you have this one life here, Lolita has one life there, Nagalakshmi has, Nandini has, Radhika Priya has, Masud has, Bhagyar Sri has, Tidipia has. You all have your one life. Can we not make the most of it now that we have this life? Avoid multitasking. Replenish your mind. With multitasking, your mind split into many. I think you'll get stressed and be able to affect your health. Now, when you avoid multitasking, according to, this one is what I love. Can I just share this one, Harry? I really love this part. Is it okay?
You can do it now.
Yeah, I have this one because this one was really very connected with me. I had this talk. That's the reason why I asked you if I can share, because I had just this one talk for this is for a college school, a tertiary school, students from college like engineering and architecture. So this one is also an Indian expert. Do you know him, Harry? Pankaj Sa. Pankaj Sa said, our brains are impressive machines, but they can't handle everything at once. So I love what he said. He's an Indian. I love what he said. He said that there are complexities in our brains. But if we do allow these complexities, it cannot handle a lot of things at a time. So when we do things, we do one step at a time. So we avoid multitasking. And I just did love to share that one because it's really, it's one of my favorites by Pankaj Sa. So when we do like this multitasking, a lot of things change. So we do need to take one step at a time. And what we do is to lessen distractions. So we take breaks. So let's take a break for a while. Let's do away from multitasking. Let's connect with the real world and organize ourselves. So I think that's one better way to avoid multitasking. And Harry, I can send you that slide.
Yes, please.
Which do you think are bad study habits?
So the bad studying habits you are asking now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So talking about bad study habits is trying to procrastinate. Yeah, I do know, Harry, know this term that we procrastinate. What do we mean by that? We take things for granted and we do not prioritize. So at some point, in my life, I sometimes do that, especially when I feel like not liking to do that part. So for example, I have a task to do and I'm really not into it. So I try to procrastinate. I'll do it later. I'll do it later until such it piles up and I'm bombarded with a lot of things. So that's one answer that I could give you. Procrastination. It's taking things for granted and not prioritizing. And don't do that. So it will not help you in your study habits.
Masood,
Is it helpful for you to study in a team? Do you think it's a good habit?
Okay, so now you are asking if it's good to study by teams, by your peers. It's like a 50% yes and a 50% no. It's a balance. It's like balancing your life. When you always do working in peers, it's what you call peer support. Now, you can have that as long as you are trying to understand a particular concept or particular thing for you to be able to ask others' opinion or others' factual information. Now, why is it 50%? Because sometimes it's better that you study alone for you to have focus, for you to comprehend what you are trying to learn, and at the same time, for you to be able to know your mistakes. Okay, so I think it's 50% yes to study in teams for support, and for studying alone for you to learn it by yourself. So it's like a 50-50 or a balance of life.
Radhika,
Thank you for that.
it's your turn.
Thank you, ma'am.
Does it help you to use a computer when you are studying? Is it a good habit?
Using the computer has so many distractions, right? In my MacBook here, I have the Zoom, I have the Facebook, I have my email, I have the photos of the people that I want to see, I have the places, I have my ticket going to Singapore and trying to learn how can I do that, what will I bring. So if asking me, is it really good to use my computer? Yes, it's okay, but have your books beside you. Always have your books beside you. If you have your physical book, turn off your social media platform, turn off the distractions. Number one, turn off Netflix when you study. Because I do know Indians also make use of Netflix, right? Hura Watch, Netflix, iFlix, so different kinds of TV series in the computer. So these are all accessible, right? So for you to focus, turn it off. X the tab. When I say X the tab, click the X tab, the X button in your tab, and try to just use your ebook or your physical book. Use of computer is okay if you're trying to research a particular phenomenon, but if not, try to use your book. Try to click the X button. I think that's one thing that I can tell you.
You have to ask again.
Are there any applications that help you with studying?
Okay, so talking about applications, the technology, number one, Flipgrid. Flipgrid is good when it comes to video blogging, when it comes to expressing yourself in English. Flipgrid is good. The second one is Nearpod. Nearpod is good for bulletins, like writing something there and writing something here. The third one is Mentimeter. Mentimeter is good for polls, surveys. Now, if you're going to ask me if applications are good, yes. My answer is yes, because with the applications that we know, you see, this Zoom platform, this is an application. It helps us communicate with one another. So for me, this application is good. This can be make use in the learning process. So it's good for learning.
Thank you so much for your time. And could you please give your final message? We have 3 minutes time is left.
Yes. So teenagers out there, you are just like my daughters and sons. I am not their mother. I am not an Indian woman. I am a Filipino, but I love children and teens. Always remember that you have somebody in the Philippines who loves you. There is somebody in the Philippines who can always listen to you whenever you want somebody to talk to. So all you need to do is to ask Teacher Hattie to have a communication with us. I can provide you a friend, and I am a friend in me. So Teacher Hattie, I can always be a friend. So if you have something like collaboration, I'm always here.